My next guest is a Rules Committee chair of the DNC and part of the Congressional Black Caucus endorsing Kamala Harris. Joining us now is Congresswoman from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Stacey Plaskett. Congresswoman, great to have you on the show. So what do you make of this call from...
Thank you. And just as a correction,
yes.
I'm not the chair. I'm just one of the members of the Rules Committee.
Well, I just promoted you, so there you go. What do you make of this statement from Black Lives Matter that they need a public vote, that we can't just let the delegates decide?
Well, I think that we have in the past allowed delegates to decide. That's how it's done each and every year. Individuals vote who they want to have on the ballot. Individuals voted for Biden-Harris in this primary election cycle. And then after that election cycle, the delegates who are also chosen by the primary voters or by caucuses within each one of their states and territories, those individuals have the authority to act in the best interest and using their good faith,
right,
best faith, to pick the individual.
Right,
and I'd also want to point out that in most, and just as to point out, in most conventions, when it is not an incumbent, the vice president is not chosen at the time of the nomination of the top of the ticket.
Right.
That vice president is chosen solely by the president, that presidential candidate. And that's what we're going to give Kamala Harris. We're not going to hamper her in any way that we have hampered any other presidential candidate. That would not be appropriate or not be fair.
Right.
And she's going through a vetting process. And if she is, in fact, the candidate, the nominee, then she should have the ability to name that vice presidential candidate.
I think the point here being raised by Black Lives Matter and others, to be honest, is that in the Democratic primaries leading up to this election, primary voters voted on a Biden-Harris ticket. They didn't vote on a Harris-to-be-named ticket. So the question is, and I'm just curious what you make of this statement from Black Lives Matter, that the absence of public voting for Harris at the top of the ticket makes the modern Democratic Party a party of hypocrites. That's pretty strong language.
Well, I think it's strong language. I don't agree with the language. They're allowed to have their opinion. If the president were to have God forbid, died, then we would be in this same position.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter also needs to realize that we have a deadline that we need to make. We cannot allow this train to stop at this time when legal deadlines are coming up on us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're going to see. Listen, the process is allowing not a coronation. Other candidates can, in fact, when the ballots open, on July 30th or 31st, I can't remember the exact date, to state that they also want to be a candidate for the presidential ticket. And if they have the number of delegates that would sign a petition for them, that being 300, no more than 50 from one state, they also can be a candidate for those delegates to vote on. So this is not going to be, it's not necessarily just going to be her on the ticket, but I think the momentum is there, and we're going to go with it.
All right. The Congressional Black Caucus came out strongly in support of Biden, and also the minute he stepped away, strongly in support of Harris. I'm sure we'll be talking to you as the election season continues. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.